I should have left the moment I heard someone praying outside my door at 3 in the morning. Even now, years later, I still wake up thinking about that voice. The worst part is that I never actually saw who it belonged to. At least, not clearly. I know how that sounds. I know there are probably logical explanations for everything that happened. Lack of sleep, stress, old buildings making strange noises. That's what I told myself at the time. Then I found the photograph. And that's the part I still can't explain. At the time, I was living alone in my apartment. It wasn't fancy. Just a quiet place attached to an old building that had been standing longer than anyone seemed able to remember. The walls were thin, the floors creaked. Normal old building stuff. For the first few months, nothing unusual happened. Then one night, I woke up because someone was whispering. At first, I thought it was coming from another apartment. I checked the clock. 3:07 a.m. The whispering continued. Soft, rhythmic, almost like someone was reading from a book. I sat up in bed and listened. The voice was coming from the hallway outside my front door. I couldn't make out every word, only pieces, a slow, steady prayer, the kind of thing you hear during a funeral. The sound lasted maybe 2 minutes. Then it stopped. Just stopped. No footsteps, no door opening, nothing. The hallway became completely silent. The next morning, I opened my door. Nobody was there. I asked my neighbor later if they had heard anything. They shook their head. Maybe a TV. Maybe. That's what I told myself. A week passed. Then it happened again. This time I woke up immediately. The same whispering, the same calm voice. I crept toward the door. The sound grew louder. My hand hovered over the lock. I don't know why I didn't open it. Something felt wrong. The voice suddenly stopped. A second later, 3 loud knocks hit the door. Bang, bang, bang. I nearly fell backward. My heart felt like it exploded. I looked through the peephole. Nobody. The hallway was empty. I opened the door a few seconds later. Nothing. No one. No sound. Just an empty hallway lit by a flickering light. That was the first time I felt genuinely scared. The next day, I bought a small camera that pointed at the front door. I figured I'd catch whoever was messing with me. For several nights, nothing happened. Then the camera alerted me. 2:58 a.m., motion detected. I sat up in bed and opened the footage. The hallway appeared empty. Then something moved. Not a person. A shadow. It crossed the far end of the hallway, too quick to identify. I replayed it 5 times. Every time I got the same result. A dark shape passing through frame. A few minutes later, the whispering started again. I muted the camera audio and listened directly through my apartment door. The voice was definitely outside. There was no doubt. I grabbed my phone and recorded. The prayer continued for almost a minute. Then silence. The next morning, I played back my recording. There was nothing there. No voice, no whispering, just static. That bothered me more than anything else. Because I knew what I'd heard. A few nights later, things got worse. I woke up to a loud crash. Something had fallen in my kitchen. I jumped out of bed and turned on the light. A chair lay on its side. The room was empty. Every window was locked. Every door was locked. I stood there trying to calm down. Then my phone rang. I almost dropped it. Unknown number, I answered. Silence. A few seconds passed. Then I heard breathing. Slow, close, as if someone was holding the phone against their face. Hello? No response, just breathing. Then the call disconnected. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next day, my coworker noticed I looked exhausted. I told them everything. They laughed. Someone's messing with you. I thought that too. Put another camera inside. So I did. One facing the front door. One facing the living room. One facing the hallway inside my apartment. For almost 2 weeks, nothing happened. I started feeling ridiculous. Then the footage changed everything. I woke up one morning to multiple alerts. The cameras had activated around 3 in the morning. I opened the recordings. The living room camera showed nothing unusual. The hallway camera showed nothing unusual. Then I checked the front door camera. The video began normally. An empty hallway, silent, still. Then someone appeared. Not suddenly, not like they materialized. They simply walked into frame. A woman wearing dark clothing, her head covered, her hands folded in front of her. From a distance, she looked like a nun. She stopped directly outside my apartment and stood there. Not moving, not speaking, just staring toward my door. The timestamp showed 3:04 a.m. The footage continued. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. She never moved. Then the camera glitched. The screen froze. When the image returned, the hallway was empty. I stared at the recording for almost an hour. The camera hadn't captured her leaving. The hallway simply became empty. I showed the footage to my coworker. For once, they didn't laugh. That's creepy. Who is she? I have no idea. That night, I barely slept. Every noise made me jump. At exactly 3:04 a.m., the whispering returned, louder than ever. It sounded close enough to be inside the apartment. I sat frozen in bed. The prayer continued. Then I heard footsteps, slow, dragging, moving through the hallway outside. One step, another, another. The sound stopped directly outside my bedroom door. My bedroom door was open. The hallway beyond it was dark. I stared into that darkness. Something moved. A shape, a figure standing just beyond the reach of the light. I switched on my lamp. The hallway was empty. At that exact moment, something slammed against my front door. The entire apartment shook. I nearly screamed. The impact came again. Bang! Then silence, complete silence. I called the police. An officer arrived and searched everything. The hallway, the stairwell, outside. Nothing. No person. No signs of forced entry. Nothing. I felt stupid. Until the officer paused near my front door. What's this? They pointed toward the floor. A photograph. I had never seen it before. It was old, black and white. The edges were damaged. The image showed several women standing together, all dressed like nuns. The officer flipped it over. There was writing on the back. Most of it had faded. Only one sentence remained readable. She still walks the hallway. I laughed nervously. The officer didn't. That's odd. I agreed. I kept the photograph. I wish I hadn't. Because after that night, things escalated. The whispers started appearing in strange places. Recordings, voicemails, videos. I would play a clip and hear faint praying beneath the audio. Other people couldn't always hear it. Sometimes they could. Sometimes they couldn't. Then came the final incident, the one that made me move out. I woke up around 3 in the morning. No whispering, no knocking, nothing. The apartment was completely silent. For the first time in weeks, I felt relieved. Then my phone lit up, motion detected, front door camera. I opened the live feed. The hallway was empty. I almost closed the app. Then I noticed something. My apartment door was slightly open, only a few inches. I knew I had locked it. I always locked it. The camera angle showed only darkness beyond the gap. I got out of bed and walked into the living room. The door was still closed, locked, exactly as I had left it. My stomach dropped. I looked back at the live feed. The door on the camera remained open. Slowly, very slowly, the gap widened, and someone stepped into view. A woman dressed like a nun, standing inside my apartment. Looking directly at the camera, I ran to the front door, unlocked it, opened it. Nobody was there. The apartment was empty. Every room, every closet, everything. The camera recording ended seconds later. The file became corrupted. I couldn't recover it. The next day I packed my things and left. I never went back. Months later, after I had moved, I received a call. Unknown number. I answered. No one spoke, only breathing. Then a whisper, so faint I almost missed it. A woman's voice, praying. The same prayer, the same voice from outside my door. The call ended. I changed my number immediately. I haven't heard from it since. But here's the part that still bothers me. A few years ago, I was cleaning out old boxes. I found the photograph again, the one from outside my apartment. I hadn't looked at it in years. At first it seemed unchanged. Then I noticed something. There had originally been 6 women standing in the picture. Now there were only 5. One space near the center was empty, as if someone had been carefully removed from the image. Maybe the photograph was damaged. Maybe I remembered it wrong. I honestly don't know. But when I turned it over, there was another sentence beneath the faded writing. One I swear wasn't there before, written in tiny letters. She found a new hallway. I threw the photograph away that night. And sometimes, when I wake up around 3 in the morning, I still think I can hear someone whispering a prayer just outside my bedroom door. I still don't know how the nun knew my name. That probably sounds harmless. It wasn't. The reason I'm telling this now is because I still check mirrors when I enter a room. I still avoid old churches. And every few months, something happens that reminds me of a woman I met during a road trip years ago. A woman who shouldn't have known anything about me. A woman I only spoke to for a few minutes. And a woman who may not have been there at all. It started during a long drive on the highway. I had been traveling alone for hours. It was getting late, and I was exhausted. My eyes burned from staring at the road. I figured I should stop somewhere before I became a danger to myself. A rest area appeared ahead. The parking lot was mostly empty. A few vehicles sat under dim lights, but there weren't many people around. I parked, stretched my legs, and headed toward the restroom. The entire place felt strangely quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet in a way that made every sound seem wrong. The buzz of the lights, the wind, my own footsteps. When I came back outside, I noticed an old church across from the rest area. It sat beyond a patch of grass near an empty road. I hadn't noticed it while driving in. Its lights were on. That surprised me. It was late. Curiosity got the better of me. I figured I'd walk over, look around for a minute, and then leave. I wish I hadn't. The church looked abandoned from a distance. Up close, it looked maintained. The front door stood slightly open. I hesitated. Then I pushed it open. The sound echoed through the building. Inside, the air smelled old, not rotten, just old. Dust floated through beams of light coming from narrow windows. Rows of empty benches stretched into darkness. I didn't see anyone. I was about to leave when a voice spoke behind me. "You shouldn't be here this late." I jumped so hard I nearly tripped. A woman stood near a side doorway. She wore a nun's habit. At least I assumed she was a nun. I hadn't heard her approach. "Sorry," I said. "I was just looking around." She stared at me for several seconds. Then she smiled. Something about the smile felt forced, not unfriendly, just strange, like she had practiced it. People come here when they're lost. I was just taking a break from driving. Her smile widened slightly. "No," she shook her head. "You're lost." I laughed awkwardly. She didn't. The silence stretched too long. Then she turned and disappeared through a doorway. I left immediately. The conversation bothered me, but I figured she was just eccentric. Back in the parking lot, I got into my vehicle. I started the engine. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Silence. A few seconds passed. Then I heard breathing. Slow, close. I hung up. A moment later, my phone buzzed again. Voicemail. I played it. There was no message, only breathing. I deleted it and drove away. 20 minutes later, I realized something. The church wasn't on my map. I searched for it several times. Nothing appeared. No listing, no record, no building. That unsettled me more than I wanted to admit. I eventually reached a motel and checked in. I was exhausted. Sleep came quickly. Then something woke me. Knocking. 3 slow knocks. Bang, bang, bang. I sat upright. The room was dark. The knocking came again. I checked the clock. 3:14 a.m. My heart raced. I approached the door. "Who's there?" No answer. I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. I opened the door anyway. Nobody. Just silence. I shut the door and locked it. As I turned around, my phone rang. Unknown number. Again. I answered. Nothing. Then a woman's voice whispered, "Still lost." The call disconnected. I didn't sleep again that night. The next morning, I convinced myself it was some elaborate prank. Maybe someone at the church had gotten my number somehow. Maybe. That explanation lasted until lunchtime. I stopped at another rest area. This one was crowded. Families, travelers, people everywhere. I finally relaxed. For the first time since visiting the church, I felt stupid for being scared. Then I walked into the restroom. A woman stood near the sink. The same nun. My stomach dropped. I froze. She was staring into the mirror, not at herself. At me, through the reflection. I spun around. The room was empty. No woman, nobody. I checked every stall, nothing. A loud crash echoed behind me. One of the stall doors had slammed shut. I practically ran out. Back outside, I sat in my vehicle trying to calm down. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. My phone buzzed. A text message. Unknown number. Only 3 words. "You look tired." I deleted it immediately. The messages kept coming. Hours apart, days apart, always from different numbers. "Don't fall asleep. Wrong road. Turn around." I blocked every number. New ones appeared. The messages never contained threats. That almost made them worse. They felt like warnings. The following week, I returned to my apartment. Life slowly returned to normal. The text stopped. The calls stopped. The fear faded. Then my roommate asked a strange question. "Who's the woman outside?" I looked up from the couch. What woman? The nun. The blood drained from my face. I ran to the window. Nobody stood outside. My roommate frowned. "That's weird." "What?" "I literally just saw her." I didn't tell my roommate anything. I didn't want to sound insane. That night, I installed a camera outside my apartment door. For several days, nothing happened. Then the motion alert arrived. 2:58 a.m. I opened the footage. A woman stood in the hallway, motionless, face partially hidden. Dressed like a nun. The image quality wasn't great, but I knew it was her. The camera recorded 3 minutes of silence. Then she lifted one hand and pointed directly at the lens. The recording ended, corrupted file, unplayable after that frame. I moved out a month later. Not because of the footage, because things got worse. I started hearing footsteps behind me when nobody was there. I would enter a room and smell the same dusty scent from the church. Mirrors became a problem. Sometimes I'd catch movement behind me, a dark shape. A woman standing in a doorway. Every time I turned around, nothing was there. Months passed. Then I finally decided to investigate. I took a day off and drove back to the area where I remembered seeing the church. I spent hours searching. Nothing. No church, no foundation, no abandoned building, nothing at all. Just empty land. As evening approached, I found an old officer parked near an empty road. I described the church. The officer listened quietly, then asked a strange question. "Did you meet a nun?" My stomach tightened. "How do you know that?" The officer looked uncomfortable. "You're not the first person who's asked." I stared at him. "What does that mean?" He hesitated. "People occasionally report seeing a church that isn't there." I felt cold. "And the nun?" The officer sighed. "Always a nun." I waited. He didn't continue. "Then what?" "Nothing." "Nothing?" "People see her once." I swallowed. "And?" The officer looked away. "Most don't come back asking questions." I drove home feeling worse than before. Years have passed since then. Most of the activity eventually stopped. Mostly. I still receive an occasional call from unknown numbers. When I answer, nobody speaks. Sometimes I hear breathing, sometimes silence. Twice I've heard a woman whispering. The same voice, the same calm tone. But that's not why I'm writing this. Last month, I found something while cleaning old files from my phone, an image I didn't remember taking. The timestamp matched the night I visited the church. The picture showed the interior, empty benches, dusty windows, the doorway where I first met the nun. At first it seemed ordinary. Then I zoomed in. Near the back row sat someone. A woman dressed like a nun, watching me. What terrified me wasn't her presence. It was what she was holding. A photograph. I enhanced the image as much as possible. The photograph became slightly clearer. Clear enough to recognize. It was a picture of me. Not from that day. Not from the road trip. The picture showed me standing outside my apartment. It had been taken months before I ever visited the church. I don't know who took it. I don't know how she had it. And I don't know why the timestamp on the image gets stranger every time I look at it. Because according to the file information, the photo wasn't taken during my road trip. It wasn't taken that year. It wasn't even taken before I entered the church. The image was created 3 days after I left. 3 days after the encounter. As if someone had gone back afterward, stood inside that empty building, and photographed the exact moment I first walked through the door. Sometimes I wonder if the church was real. Sometimes I wonder if the nun was a stalker. Sometimes I think there must be a logical explanation. Then I remember one final detail. The photograph she was holding wasn't the only picture in her hands. There was a stack of them. Dozens. And every single one appeared to show me, taken at different times, different years, different places. Some of them haven't happened yet. At least, I hope they haven't. Because the last photograph in the stack shows me standing beside an empty road at night, looking directly into the camera, while someone dressed like a nun stands behind me, smiling.